If you'd like to make your NFL games a little more interesting, you've come to the right place. It's the Even Money Podcast with Ross Tucker and Steve Fezzik.
Yeah, Vegas, baby, Vegas. It is the Even Money Podcast, presented, of course, by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's #1 rated sportsbook app. We record on Tuesdays this year, a day earlier, which probably helps you in terms of getting an edge on some of the early betting lines. Maybe makes it a little harder for us to keep our numbers up like they've been over the last few years. He's Steve Fezzik, the only two-time winner of the Super Bowl of professional football gambling. It's a super contest at the Westgate Casino out there in Vegas. I'm Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, 5 teams, 7 years, got a bunch of different podcast for you. Did my power rankings on today's Ross Tucker football podcast. A lot of movement. Try not to do too much. I don't want to overreact too much. It's only 1 week. If you listen to the Ross Tucker football podcast, you can find out how to get a free Madden code as well as a signed picture or signed press pass. I've got that Giants Steelers press pass from Monday Night Football last night. But we actually have some grades. We have some things to look at, Steve. I'm thrilled. For the first time this season, we can go back and see how we did so far. How are you?
Ask it. It's 6:15 a.m. here on the West Coast. There's a lot of people that routinely get up this early to go play golf. Ross, they're crazy.
That's me, my friend. I get up very, very early. You and I are not on the same page there. I do appreciate, by the way, with some of the different timing restrictions we have today, that you are able to go ahead and work with us this early this morning. Let's start like we always do, Steve. It's kind of fun to go over what happened last week. Man, I got to tell you, there's some games I thought I bet that I didn't, that I'm very, very angry about. But, you know, I go on a bunch of different radio shows, a bunch of different podcasts. Obviously, this is like the official betting podcast I have, where I actually go ahead and write everything down and we get graded. By the way, I should mention Sean Grady, our buddy from Australia, will be doing the grading this year. Birdman has moved, got a new job, got a lot going. So Sean Grady is grading us, and his spreadsheet is beautiful. I mean, absolutely beautiful. I'm going to send this to you, Steve. You'd be amazed how much information he has. The outlay, the return, the balance, the ROI, the strike rate, leans, line, total, teasers, props, points total, winners, fave, dog, pick 'em, total. I mean, this guy is a freak, and I mean that in an absolutely complimentary way. We'll start, Steve. And by the way, our recap, to give you our numbers, it's presented by DraftKings because we use DraftKings lines for this. So, and we do it on Tuesdays. So we're going to grade it out based on that. We will start with the Texans and the Chiefs. Neither one of us put a bet on that one, Steve. We both leaned to the Chiefs. That would have been nice. They were laying 9 points. They won 34-20.
Yeah, and the Chiefs now 9 straight, make it 10 straight wins and covers an undervalued Super Bowl champ. When does that ever happen, Ross? But all about that defense being better under Spagnuolo. It continues to improve, and a healthy Mahomes. And frankly, he wasn't even spectacular yet. Chiefs are the NFL favorite.
Then you get to, and by the way, I should mention, you can check us out on YouTube as well, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. Then I get to Browns and Ravens. The Browns were getting 8 points. So I think we actually got, or at least I got a good number on them compared to, I think it moved a little bit after that. Yeah, didn't go so well. Browns got smashed 38-6. I lost a unit there. It was just a lean for you there, Steve. No units either way for you. What can you say? I thought the Browns would be much improved. I thought having all training camp to work on Lamar Jackson would help. It didn't.
Same old Cleveland. an organization that never wins, 12 straight losing years. I got to be honest, that was my handicap, and a lot of people made fun of me like that. Looking at that great talent with the Browns. But I got to ask you, Ross, are there some organizations in the NFL that just the players never live up to their potential, seemingly year after year?
Yeah, the Browns, the Lions, the Jets, absolutely, without any question. It's uncanny. We'll get to that in a little bit. Let's get to the Eagles and Washington. Now, this is really strange because earlier in the week, I leaned to the Eagles. Later in the week, after Miles Sanders was out and there was Lane Johnson questionable and Derek Barnett, I was telling everybody on other shows, Ross Tucker Football Podcast, I like the Washington football team with the points. Wish I would have laid that bet because they won outright by 10 points. Although that didn't look great because the Eagles were up by 17-0 and absolutely rolling them. What a roller coaster of a game. You leaned Washington. I leaned Philadelphia. No points there.
Yeah, and Lane Johnson going out was the third lineman the Eagles were down, and then a fourth lineman went out with cramps during the game. Now, the narrative is that the Washington football team is good and that defensive line is unblockable. The truth, the Washington football team is horrible. And yes, they have a really good D-line that had the advantage in that game. So congrats to Washington. You're still going 5-11.
Let's get to next, Colts and Jags. We both leaned to laying the points with the Colts. Wow, were we wrong there? They were laying 8 points. The Jags won the game outright. Kudos to Minshew Mania and the boys as they get it done. Over the Colts, 27-20. Glad that was just a lean. Then we get to the Bills and the Jets. My Bills, I laid 6.5 points because I think the Bills are for real this year. I think the Jets are awful. It worked. I got one unit there, laying the 6.5. Bills won 27-17. You leaned the Bills' way as well. Frankly, Steve, it really wasn't even that close. I mean, Josh Allen had 2 terrible fumbles. He overthrew John Brown in the end zone. Jamison Crowder took a wide receiver screen like 75 yards, broke a couple tackles. Score really should have been worse.
It's a great point. And if you look at that 70-yard screen touchdown, I can only imagine what the post-game meetings were like for the defense. That was the one play that the Bills probably looked at and said, what were you guys doing? That was an 8-yard completion.
So the next game, I have a question for you, Steve, because it was Dolphins-Patriots. I took the Dolphins for 1 unit, getting 6.5 points. Patriots won 21-11. I don't know how I missed this, or maybe the red zone missed it, or I missed it. But the Dolphins were like inside the 10 with 2.5 minutes left, 1st and goal, and it was 21-11. I thought for sure Fitz was going to get me the backdoor cover. Did he throw another pick there? Do you know what happened at the end of that game?
Yeah, the Dolphins were rushing, and Fitz did throw an interception, forced it into the end zone. Frankly, I thought the game was going to land 7 because I've seen this movie so many times where a team doesn't make really risk a turnover because they know they need 2 scores, but Fitz is from the Ivy League, as you know, and so he knew the only realistic chance was to get it cut to 3, so he threw up a horrible pass interception.
Darn, I missed that, and I thought I was going to cash that one. I thought Fitz was going to get me a backdoor cover. Then we get to the Bears and the Lions. Not going to lie, Steve, that one hurt. That one hurt bad, real bad. I mean, I had a bunch that hurt. You know, not taking the Washington team when I thought I did. But the Dolphins one hurt, Fitz at the end, but the Lions laying 3 points, up 23-6 in the 4th quarter, laying 3 points on the DraftKings Sportsbook line. They lose 27-23. And not only do they lose 27-23, DeAndre Swift drops the ball in the end zone that would have at least given me a push, Steve. Now, maybe they could have gone for 2. I don't know. I doubt it. But it would have at least given me a push. That is a bad beat. The combo being up 23-6, and then DeAndre Swift, who, by the way, Steve, I've known since he was in 9th grade, drops the touchdown that would have given me the push. That one hurt.
Yeah, so kudos to the Lions. They excel at disappointing their fans. They lost this game not once, as you mentioned, but twice. Since you do know DeAndre Swift well, you might want to mention that I'm no football expert, but typically in high leverage situations like that, I do believe the coaching staff says, look the ball into your hands instead of looking around, am I going to be out of bounds when I'm nowhere close to the sideline?
Yeah, I feel awful for him. I really do. He's a good kid, and man, to feel like you let down your whole team, your whole city in your first pro game. Seahawks and Falcons. I leaned Seahawks. That was a good way to go. They smashed the Falcons. I call them the fantasy Falcons now, Steve, on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Everybody that you want to get good fantasy numbers, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Matt Ryan, they'll all get the fantasy numbers you want. They'll just lose the game because that's what the Falcons do. Packers, Vikings. Now, I am shocked that all I did was lean Packers on this show because I thought, elsewhere, I thought it was one of my best bets. The Packers getting 2.5 points. I am shocked that I did not place that wager. But listen, what we say on this show is what we count. The numbers are the numbers. I just leaned Packers beat the Vikings handily. Raiders, Panthers. You really like the Panthers, Steve. You put 2 units on them. They were getting 3.5 points on the DraftKings Sportsbook app line. They lose 34-30 when on 4th and 1 late, they give the ball to fullback Alex Arma. I know you're a big Alex Arma fan, Steve.
I am. I tell you what, I'm a big fan of offenses in this game because we saw no defense other than that play. And the Carolina with only 3 starters back on defense, I don't think they're going to stop anyone at least until October.
Yep, I'm with you on that one. Let's get to the Chargers and the Bengals. It was one of our 2 best bets, Steve. It was the Bengals getting 3.5 on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. And, man, they almost blew it with the Mixon fumble, the Burrow shovel pass. I thought, Steve, because that line, we had really good line. What do they call it, Steve, when we got the better of the line last week?
Line value, CLV. That is the number one way you can tell. If you ask me, am I going to win betting in the NFL? You can tell me I went 10-2. I'm like, irrelevant. But if you show me all your tickets lined up and you compare it to the closing numbers, example, Green Bay, I'm going to cash this right now, so I don't know if you can see this. Green Bay's plus 3.5. It's a bet I made at the end of August. Game closes 1. That's your closing line value. You make bets better than the closing number, you're probably going to win in the long run.
Yeah, and I almost forgot watching that game, Steve, that we got the Bengals at 3.5. I thought it was 3, and when he missed the kick, I was like, unbelievable. But that was the best thing that could have happened to us because if it went to overtime, the Chargers could have scored a touchdown, and we could have gotten screwed there. So that was our first best bet. We both put 1 unit on it, and it cashed for us. Then we had the Cardinals and the Niners. The Cardinals, we got them at 7. That went down to 6.5, I believe. On the DraftKings Sportsbook app, we got them at 7. I put 2 units on it, thankfully. You put 1 unit on it, and the Cardinals won outright in San Francisco, 24-20. I know they blocked the punt, but that was not a fluke. That was not a fluke.
No, it was not. And Hopkins' big debut for Arizona, whose offense is going to be very good. San Francisco's offense is not right now. And with George Kittle banged up, who the heck are they going to throw the ball to now, Ross? Niners hurting on offense.
Yeah, really. Unbelievable at this point. So then we get to the Bucs and the Saints. I put 1 unit on the Bucs. They were getting 3.5 points on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. I really thought the Bucs would at least be able to cover. The thing is they didn't. I know they lost by 11, but they had a lot of weird. Vita Vea jumps off sides on 4th and 1. Mike Evans stops his route and Brady throws a pick. Horrible pick 6 by Brady. That's on him. They do that mortar kick and nobody picks it up for the Bucs. I don't feel horrible. I mean, I lost, right? So it doesn't matter, but I don't feel horrible about that one. Get to the Cowboys and the Rams. You got the Rams getting 3 points, Steve, and they won the game outright. So that was a nice bet for you. 1 unit. I was leaning to the Cowboys. I'm way low on the Rams this year, evidently.
Yeah, so the Cowboys, you got to wonder, without Collins, so now Frederick is out for the Cowboys all year as well, their center. And now historically, the Cowboys have had a great O-line, and they don't have a great O-line this year, just a good one. And they could not protect Dak on that final drive. The number one takeaway I had was, obviously, we could debate whether that was a pass interference penalty, but Dak was under siege every time he dropped back when the Rams knew Dallas had to throw.
Steelers and the Giants last night. I was there, Steve. I talked about it on today's Ross Tucker football podcast. Kind of crazy to be in the stadium and there's nobody else there. I felt like Ian Eagle and I had our own private viewing. I leaned to the Giants. Glad it was just a lean. They were getting 5.5 points. That line went up. Would not have been good closing line value. And that would have been good if Daniel Jones didn't throw 2 terrible interceptions. Then finally, Titans and the Broncos. Wow, it was a pick'em last Tuesday. By game time, it got to 3 points the Titans were laying, and so the Broncos ended up winning that bet 16-14 thanks to a bunch of missed field goals by Gostkowski.
Yeah, and that was an example of a game where a lot of pros made a whole lot of money because Tennessee was catching points throughout the summer, and that line goes to 3.5 at post. It's a Monday Night Football game with late start time, and you go ahead and see all the public. They don't care what the line is. They're just going to lay it on the favorite, and the pros took back the Denver plus 3.5 and caught a really nice fat middle when wow, Gostkowski. Wonder where he's going to be working tomorrow. We'll see.
So for the week, I put out 8 units. I got back 8 units. I was totally zero. I was totally even. You were up 1 unit, Steve, which is great. And then our best bets, 2 for 2 to start the year. Awesome. So we got a nice 100% return there. So really, really good on our we're 100% so far on our best bets this year. Before we get to the week 2 bets, which I'm very fired up. I still can't believe I didn't bet on the Packers in Washington. Really, I really thought I did. That would have been really nice. I should mention that now that we have this 1 game of sample size, you should go to betql.com or the BetQL app and look at all the data points they have. I know it's only 1 game, but they get a lot of data points. They'll give you their best bet recommendations. They've got all kinds of algorithms, plus NBA, MLB, NHL, all still going. I even did a video that you guys can check out. Twitter and Instagram at Ross Tucker NFL. Facebook, facebook.com/Ross Tucker NFL. He's at Fezzik Sports, by the way. You should follow him too. Anyway, if you go there, enter code Ross20 for 20% off your first payment. Let's dive into week 2, Steve.
Love it.
All right, Ross, let's start with the Thursday night game. Battle of Ohio, Cincinnati Bengals getting 6 points at the Cleveland Browns. Total is 44.
Yeah, so I think the look-ahead line was like 7.5 the Browns were laying originally. So this line has come down. I'm sure some people think it's an overreaction. I don't know. I think these are even teams right now. I mean, the Browns were really bad. I think they'll bounce back. I think there's a decent chance the Browns win the game. But I'm going to put a unit on Joey Burrow and the Bengals again here to at least cover. I'll take the 6 points and the Bengals.
And I adjusted my power ratings. And the one thing that as a pro handicapper that you learn, don't overreact to what you just saw. Now, that's good advice during the regular season, week 6 or 7. I don't think that's such good advice week 1 because let's face it, in a COVID year, we're going to see a lot of these teams are going to be a lot better or worse than we thought that they would be. The one theme I think that stood out, new coaches, big challenge during this year. We saw the new coaches go 1-3 straight up and against the spread. New quarterbacks struggled as well. However, Thursday game greatly benefits the home team with the lack of prep time, especially in a COVID year, especially against a rookie quarterback. I'll lean Cleveland.
Steve, on to Sunday. We'll start with the Rams at the Eagles, and Rams laying 1.5 points. Total is 46.
All right, so my power ratings make the game a pick 'em, but I want no part of the Eagles until I see that injury report and I see that they're going to have some guys playing. And if you watch that second half against the Washington football team, the Eagles were running out of linemen. And Ross, you'll appreciate this being a lineman. When the last guy that's available is out there blocking, it's got to impact the entire team, right?
Yeah, so my instincts tell me that the Eagles will bounce back and play well because they normally do, but I just can't do it. I just can't do it. I mean, they were so bad in the second half of that game, and they've got even more guys banged up now, and I don't know what the status is of those guys. I can't do it. I guess I'll lean Philadelphia, but this is a pass.
And Steve, did you make your bet or no?
No bet for me.
No bet. Okay, Ross, let's continue with Carolina. They're getting 9 points at Tampa Bay with a total of 49.
This is interesting because I do think the Bucs will bounce back, but 9 points is a lot of points. And the Panthers showed that they're able to go ahead and put some points up. I just wonder how much of that was because the Raiders' defense isn't very good and because they've got new coaches that were able to show some things for the first time. I'm going to pass the game, but I would lean Carolina in those 9 points here.
I'll lean to the over. I think if you just bet Carolina and their 3 returning starters on defense, if you bet their games to go over each and every week, I think you'll do just fine. Mike Evans probably be healthy. Wasn't healthy last week, so more points for Tampa. I would lean to the over.
Steve, Denver Broncos getting 6.5 points on the road. West Coast team, not West Coast team, but going east to Pittsburgh. 43 the total there.
Yeah, I don't like what I saw from Denver last night. Denver got the cover largely because Gostkowski left 10 points on the table. And frankly, Pittsburgh, a much better team at home historically than on the road. I'll lay it with the Steelers here, 2 units.
So that was my instinct as well, Steve. I guess the only thing I'm a little bit nervous about is at the end of the game, Zach Banner looked like he tore his ACL, the right tackle. Stefan Wisniewski, the right guard, who's already filling in for David DeCastro, he might have torn his pec. So I'm a little bit worried about the Steelers' O-line in this game based on all those injuries they suffered at the end. But I still don't envision Denver going in there and winning that game. 6.5 feels a little rich to me, but the Broncos are still kind of banged up. I'll go with you here, Steve. I'll put just 1 unit, though, on the Steelers laying the 6.5 points for a best bet.
The best bet.
Next up, Ross, it's the Atlanta Falcons, and they're getting 5 points at the Dallas Cowboys. 52 are total.
Wow, 52, that's a high number. I understand it, but that's a pretty high number here, especially for what happened and what happened with the Cowboys on both sides of the ball. We'll see. The Falcons secondary got shredded by Russell Wilson, so that's probably fine. I'd probably just lean Dallas here, but this is a pass game for me. This is going to be like a high-scoring, 30-27 type of game. I'll stay away from it.
Yeah, I think you can get involved with some props here because I agree it should be very high scoring. Maybe we'll play one of my favorite props to play in a situation like this is shortest touchdown under 1.5. It seems like in these high scoring shootouts, there's always a 1-yard touchdown. There's so many of them, but I'll pass on the side.
Steve, the San Francisco 49ers are laying 7 points at the New York Jets with a total of 42.5.
I got to tell you this. Clearly, in my eyes, the Jets have solid value here because I just don't think the Niners are any good right now with all their injuries and skill position players. But the problem is I watched the Jets, Buffalo, and as Ross mentioned earlier in the podcast, Buffalo could easily have won that game by 24 points if Crowder doesn't get the miracle touchdown and if Josh Allen doesn't look like a high school quarterback in the red zone. That one just gets completely ugly. I would have been on the Jets if the Niners had won week 1, but the fact that the Niners lost, I'm going to pass.
Yeah, I would, if anything, lean Niners here. I think there's a chance they blow the Jets out. I think the Jets are really that bad. I wonder if this line, how it moves. I don't know if it will. If it was less than 7, I think I would put the money on the Niners. I'll just lean that way right now.
Another road team favorite, Ross, Buffalo Bills. They are laying 5.5 points at the Miami Dolphins. The total on this one is 42.
So I don't want to overreact to one game either way. I don't know that Fitz is going to throw 3 picks again. I think the Bills are pretty darn good, but I'm actually going to go the other way here. I'm going to put 1 unit on the Miami Dolphins. I have faith that the Dolphins will be able to keep this game close. You know, there were some unique things there with Cam in New England, Cam's first game, you know, how they ran him so much. Also, with all the opt-outs, you didn't really know how the Patriots were going to deploy them defensively. I don't envision Fitz throwing that many picks again. I'll put a unit on the Dolphins, getting 5.5 points.
You know, one thing that stood out to me is teams with new O-line or O-line reconfigurations got bombed yesterday. So which 2 teams in the NFL had the biggest changes on the O-line? Miami and the Jets. And until I see some cohesion there, I'm going to go ahead and pass on those teams. Ross, how long does it take a brand new O-line to get their act together typically?
Probably about a month. I would say at least 3 or 4 games probably before they're really feeling good.
All right, next up, Steve, it's Minnesota at Indianapolis, and the Vikings are getting 3 points, total 47.5.
Yeah, so 2 really disappointing teams. We talked about cohesion. That Viking defense, which has been awesome under Zimmer, they were bad against Green Bay. Now, Aaron Rodgers played tremendously, as well as he's played in years, but the D-line cluster injuries, no sacks for the Vikings. The cornerback losses that they had during free agency really took a toll, but I did not like what I saw from Phillip Rivers at all with Indy. I love Mike Zimmer as a coach. Bounce back game for the Vikings. I'll take the Vikings plus the 3 2 units.
Wow. Steve, I'm going the other way. We're going head-to-head on this one. The Colts had 450 yards of offense. The Colts didn't punt. My concern with the Colts is actually their defense and giving up 27 points to Gardner Minshew. I like a couple bets here. I like 2 units on the over, 47.5. I think there's a lot of points in this game. Colts defense was disappointing. Vikings defense is a sieve. And I'm putting 1 unit on the Colts laying the 3 points. I think the Colts win the game by more than 3. In fact, you know what? I'm putting 2 units on the Colts laying the 3 points. They got 4 units on that football game.
All right, next up, Ross. Detroit, they are getting 6 points at the Green Bay Packers, 47.5 total.
So I'll put a unit on the Lions, getting the 6 points. I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm a moron. I don't learn my lesson that the Lions always choke and blow it when it matters the most. So I'll just go ahead and lose another unit for all you guys there by getting a 1 unit on the Lions, getting 6.
Agree completely with the handicap. I always like betting 0-1 teams against 1-0 teams. And frankly, the season win numbers, the closers on these 2 teams, Green Bay came down to 8.5. In some spots, the lines went up to 7.5. The market was saying there was not much difference between these 2 teams going into the year. Not that big of a home field for Green Bay. They do have a funky surface, but the Lions are used to playing on it. Last year when these 2 teams played, I believe this line was 4. All right? Green Bay's not going to be as good this year. The Lions are going to be better. If the line last year was 4, now Detroit is in a good situation. They're getting 6. I'm aboard. 2 units, Lions.
The best bet.
Steve, the New York Giants, they're getting 5.5 points at the Chicago Bears. The over-under on this one is 43.
How about those Bears? Wow. I'm not going to jump on board the Bears, but until Daniel Jones shows me more than he did last night, I want no part of the G-men. I pass.
I'm going the other way. I'm going to put 2 units on the Giants. I don't think the Bears are very good. And I thought Daniel Jones did a bunch of positive things last night, even though they couldn't run the ball a lick. I'm a little bit concerned about the Giants' O-line against the Bears, but if they just spread things out and let Daniel Jones throw the ball, I'm not expecting him to have 2 horrible interceptions like that. Those are both unique situations. 2 units on the G-men getting the 5.5 points.
Ross, Jacksonville, they're getting 10.5 points at Tennessee Titans, 43, the over-under.
Wow. 10.5 for the Jags. Look, I don't understand that line. I mean, the Titans are on a short week. I know the Jags aren't really good, but they've got some momentum. Titans are on a short week, probably getting a new kicker. I'm putting 2 units on the Jags. They'll probably lose, but 10.5 points. I'll take it. 2 units, Jags.
Yeah, and Jacksonville's not supposed to have a running back, and they're supposed to be tanking, but their undrafted running back did not get the memo, running his heart out, almost getting 100 yards last week. I'll lean to Jacksonville. One thing pro gamblers that we hate doing, Ross, we hate taking a bad team that gets a big upset, and then the next week they're on the road as a big underdog again. So often that team almost exhales, celebrates the great game, and then gets bombed the next week. I pass.
Steve, Washington's getting 6.5 points at the Arizona Cardinals. 46 are total.
So the narrative, as I mentioned, is that the Washington football team is suddenly a solid team. Now, that was all about Eagle injuries, in my opinion, and playing into Washington. The one thing they do well, Dwayne Haskins is still a terrible quarterback. The Redskins, the football team is not going to show up like they did last week. Arizona, 2 units.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Arizona wins by double digits. I don't think Washington's good either. I think they were very fortunate that Wentz had the 2 picks, the 2 fumbles, and they were up against the Eagles' 8th and 9th offensive linemen. 2 units for me, laying the 6.5 points with the Cardinals. Best bet.
The best bet.
Ross, Baltimore laying 6.5 points at the Houston Texans, total 52.5.
Yeah, so I think the Baltimore Ravens are the right side to be on here. Houston gets extra time to prepare. Houston's at home. I just think Baltimore might be that good. I'll put 1 unit on the Ravens, laying the 6.5 on the road.
Yeah, Houston needs 2 healthy wide receivers to be able to compete. I know Fuller looked good, but their other wide receiver did not, and they are so thin at wide receiver behind him. I could only look towards Baltimore, but I don't like playing 1-0 teams against 0-1 teams. I'll pass.
Kansas City, Steve, they are laying 8.5 points on the road at the Los Angeles Chargers, 48.5 total.
Yeah, so Chargers banged up defensively. Derwin James, of course, lost for the season, lost another starter against the Bengals. I think the point spread tax has finally caught up to Kansas City. My numbers have shown Chiefs have had value for the last 9 games. This is the first game where this is exactly where I made the number. I was leaning Chiefs. I'm friends with a professional gambler, and he literally has been texting me, "Oh, I'll give it to you at no vig if you want the Chargers. I'll take Kansas City." This is not a guy I ever want to bet against, so I'll pass.
Yeah, I hate laying points like this. I'm doing it, though. I mean, the Chargers are not good. Tyrod Taylor's going to get benched soon. The Chiefs probably win this game by double digits. 1 unit, laying the 8.5 with the Chiefs. I know that's not a good way to do it. I'll tell you what is a good way to do it, Steve. Right now, DraftKings Sportsbook, they're giving all new users the chance to turn $1 into $100 when they bet on any team. That's right. Place a $1 bet on any team. If that team wins, you cash a cool Benjamin. How do you pass that up? Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code Ross when you sign up to get this can't-miss offer. Pick any team during Week 2. Bet $1 on them and win $100 if they win. That's $1 to win $100 when you use promo code Ross during sign-up. Limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey or PA only. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Sunday Night Football, Ross has the New England Patriots as 4.5-point underdogs at the Seattle Seahawks. Total is 45.
Staying away from this one, Seattle just looked so good. And now that they know how the Patriots are going to utilize Cam, I don't think he'll be as effective. I guess I would lean Seattle, but I'm passing.
Yeah, in Seattle, I got to tell you, Russell Wilson now, for the first time in his career, he's got two good wide receivers in Lockett and Metcalf. That team is dangerous, meaning Super Bowl contender dangerous. I'm passing this game. The one thing I want to mention about DraftKings, which is awesome that they do as well as anyone, the props on the individual players that they offer is really fantastic. So, like Ross was mentioning, if you get a player like Cam that has a breakout game and then you feel like, he's not going to do as well the next game, DraftKings is your place to go because they'll have props up on how exactly Cam himself will do that you can wager on.
All right, last but not least, it is Monday Night Football, Steve. The New Orleans Saints in your backyard at the Las Vegas Raiders. Saints, 5.5-point favorites, 50.5 the total.
You know, there are things about the Saints I didn't like against Tampa Bay. They got less than 300 yards. Drew Brees, he was not good for week one, and Brees was playing at an awesome level in December. So the Saints may well be an undervalued team. I'm going to pass this game, but I will say this. The Allegiant Stadium here in Vegas, we're going to have no fans all year long. This is a world-class facility. It's right on the strip by close to Mandalay Bay. And I don't think I've ever seen a town as excited as my Las Vegas is for the Raiders coming. And this being the very first game, this is going to be an energy-fueled team even without fans. This is the game that Vegas has been waiting for 20 years.
I like the Raiders in this one. I thought the Raiders did a lot of positive things against Carolina on the road. Now it's their first time in Las Vegas, in the new stadium, Monday Night Football, getting 5.5 points. Give me 1 unit on the Raiders. I love it, Steve. A lot of bets for us this week. Can't wait to see how it all plays out. You guys know where to have it all play out. Check out today's Ross Tucker Football Podcast as well. Other than that, good luck, everybody. Hope you guys win some money.
Thanks for listening to the Even Money Podcast. Make sure to also subscribe to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, the Fantasy Feast, Business of Sports, and the College Draft. All available at Apple Podcasts, rosstucker.com, or wherever podcasts can be found.